On Chapter 13's quiz, you will see a question that asks you to trace a recursive call, and it's going to use a Java unary operator, which you've seen before even if you don't remember the term unary operator. And it's going to be a little bit tricky. Unary operators in Java can be in two forms, prefix and postfix. And how they are handled by the compiler is a little bit different. You'll need to know this for the AP exam, and it will also help you with Chapter 13's question. So before I do any type of tracing of any recursive calls that use the unary operators, I'm going to just do a little short lecture here on what a unary operator is and the difference between the two types. Now, you've seen unary operators since you've been doing loops at least, and you're very familiar with the postfix form, particularly in a for loop where you do, for example, I++ or I-. So the unary operators are the minus and the plus that you can use with an integer variable to increase or decrease its value by 1. As I said, the postfix form you're very familiar with and you're used to using. There is also a prefix form that you've probably seen where you put the unary operator in front of the variable name. Now, the way these are handled, there's a slight difference between them. And sometimes in your code, you probably haven't noticed the difference, but there is a difference, and it's going to matter when you start doing recursive tracing. In the postfix form, the addition or subtraction, the increment or decrement, takes place after the value is used in an expression. After whatever expression that value is in is evaluated, the increment or decrement takes place after that. In the prefix form, the addition or subtraction, the increment or decrement, takes place before the value is used in expression evaluation. So let that sink in a minute. Sometimes you do the increment or decrement before you evaluate the expression, and sometimes you do it after. Okay, postfix, increment or decrement takes place after the expression's evaluated. Prefix, the increment or decrement takes place before the expression is evaluated. So let's actually see that in some code here. We're going to take a simple integer and we're going to set it equal to 5, just any value, so I can demonstrate this. I'm going to print out the value that's in I, and as you expect, it's going to print out a 5. Now I'm going to put an expression together using a postfix unary operator. I'm going to say, in a print line, evaluate I-, print the value of the expression I-, here. Now, we know that 5 minus 1 is 4, and you might be thinking a 4 would print here. But because this is a postfix unary operator, it comes after the variable name, that subtraction is going to take place after the I-, is used in the print line. So it's going to print a 5, and then it's going to subtract 1 and store the value 4 in I. So that's where this gets tricky. Then if I immediately turn around and print out the value that's in I get my 4. So you might be thinking that a 4 would print here, when in reality it's going to print the value first and then subtract 1 and then store the 4 in I. So that's where you really have to pay attention to whether it's prefix or postfix. So now let's use an example using a prefix unary operator. I'm going to take another integer variable, I'm going to call it y, I'm going to set it equal to 12. As expected, when I put that y in a print line, it evaluates to 12. Now I'm going to use the prefix unary decrement operator to subtract 1 from it. Because it's a prefix operator, in the prefix form, that subtraction takes place before the y is evaluated and printed out in the print line statement. So it takes the 12, subtracts 1, puts an 11 in there, and then evaluates the expression to print it out. So I get an 11 here. And then I turn around just to prove to myself that 11 is actually the value stored in y, and I print out y again. So I get my 11. So you really have to see the difference here. With the postfix, I'm going to print out the value, then do the subtraction or addition. In the prefix, I'm going to do the subtraction or addition first and then print it out. So you can experiment with these increment and decrement operators on your own just to get a feel for how they work. We can come in here and let's just to prove to ourselves that there's no significant difference between the plus and the minus. They're going to act the same way. So we're going to use the postfix and the prefix operators. Here I have a 5 in here. We know that 5 and 1 is 6, however, because it's a postfix, it prints the 5, then it does the addition and stores it in the variable, and I prove that by printing the variable out. Here I've got a 12, I'm going to add 1 to it and then print it out because this is a prefix unary operator, and I prove to myself again that 13 is in fact stored in there by printing it out. So I encourage you to really commit this to memory, because you will see it on the exam and they will try to trick you and cause you to make a slight mathematical error to prove whether or not you know how prefix and postfix works.